Good morning and welcome to our first session. My name is Jared Reese. I'm one of the board members for UCAP, and I'm also the committee chair for the St. George Rally. Please note the emergency exits that we do have, that if you need to use them, know where they're at. And also be sure to visit the resource booths during the break. There are some here, but there are also some in the other building where some of our also breakout sessions are occurring. Please make sure you visit the new UCAP website and follow us on social media. All sessions are recorded and will be available on the UCAP website, hopefully by the end of this month. And did you know that income such as registration fees only cover about half of the cost of these conferences? And so your generous donations are greatly appreciated. We value your feedback. So please complete the survey that will be shared at the end of the conference. We always want to know how can we make these better, more meaningful. Our speaker for this session is Jeff Ford. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice in St. George, Utah. Jeff has specialized in treating pornography and sexual addiction for 23 years. He also works with spouse and family members that are afflicted by addiction. Jeff is the author of numerous workbooks for the Lifestar Network, addiction recovery articles, and he has spoken extensively about the effect that pornography and addiction has on individuals and families. On a personal note, Jeff has let me know that he is about ready to become a grandfather. Kind of exciting. Yes. And has one of his children also getting married shortly. So, Jeff, thanks for being here with us.
My wife was reading my bio this morning, and it said that I've been doing this for 23 years, and she's like, Jeff, nobody's going to believe you. You look like you're like 30 years old. And I told him, I said, I'm going to tell Jared to tell people that I'm about to be a grandpa. Maybe that'll help a little bit. But I just want you to know that I am so happy to be here. I love UCAP. I've been involved on the board with UCAP since 2010, and the light, the hope, and the healing that UCAP has brought, not just only to Utahns, but all across the country. There have been other organizations that have taken what we've done here in Utah and implemented it in their own states. So, and I'm also just so thrilled. Wasn't Elder Patrick Kieran wonderful? Let's give him another round of applause. Elder Kieran had a special touch today in helping anyone that has been affected by this scourge. And I know that the words that he shared and the invitations that he made will help all of us. On the subject of help, I would like all of you to pull your phone out. This is the only time you get to do that during my presentation. After this, you need to put it away and listen. So, just yesterday, Utah Coalition Against Pornography launched their brand new website. So I'd like you to go to utahcoalition.org, and I'd like you to just take a moment to just browse it for a second. If there is a day or a moment in your life, or maybe a moment in someone that you love's life, that you need hope, help, and healing, please consider going to this website. Regardless of your situation, I'm confident that you will find something on this website that will give you direction. There is hope and help for people who are affected by someone else's addiction, their own addiction, leaders and family members. There is videos from all of our conferences. There's over 100 videos that are going to be on that website. If you prefer YouTube, you can go to our YouTube site, utahcoalition.org, on YouTube channel, and all the videos are there as well. And as mentioned before, the videos from this conference will be available within the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks. But I encourage you to share those videos. Those are the mission of UCAP is to provide education so people can rise above the damage and the pain that has been in their lives as a result of pornography. And I promise you, if you click on some of those videos, it will provide that. We've worked very hard to provide that for all of you. So I'm happy to share that with you guys today. All right, so today what I'm going to be talking about is the addiction cycle. And I'm going to kind of treat our meeting today as if I had each one of you in my office. And over the past number of years, I've gotten accustomed to a small pattern. The first day that I meet a person or couple, the most frequent question they ask me is, why? Why can I not stop? Why has this been going on and on? Why do I do this despite my desire not to do this? And I'm going to share some things with you to answer those questions. The first is I'm going to talk about the addiction cycle. Then we're going to go into a little bit of brain science. We're going to understand the dopaminergic system in our brain. And then we're going to, with the time left over, we're going to understand a little bit about social and emotional development and how that has been affected and why we call this recovery. What is it that we're trying to recover? We're going to talk about that near the end. Let's start with the addiction cycle. As with any addiction, this addiction with pornography is similar. Just like a person who has a bad day at work and they don't know how to deal with what's happening in their body, what's happening in their relationships, and they might stop by a bar and use alcohol to seek relief because they don't know how to deal with the pain. Individuals with pornography addiction are the same. They experience uncertainty about how do I deal with pain. And that is where this cycle starts. For whatever reason, we've learned over the years that individuals that struggle with pornography addiction struggle with managing pain in 5 areas: physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, and relational. Physical is simple. One thing I've learned over the years also is that whenever an individual that struggles with this addiction, if they are sick or having some type of physical pain, that is a high-risk time for a slip or a relapse. For whatever reason, they aren't connected to their body enough to be able to deal with that pain effectively. Physical pain can also manifest itself in an inability to have a routine schedule with sleep, eating, and nutrition, and hydration. Unregulated bodies are feeling a type of pain in which the body turns to itself with pornography and sex addiction to comfort itself. And so learning to cope with and manage pain effectively in a physical way becomes very important. Second is emotional pain. We're going to talk a little bit about this more at the end of our meeting today. Emotional pain is an inability to be able to find words to express what one feels. Many individuals that struggle with this addiction also struggle with a condition called alexithymia. Alexithymia is a condition that it's a big word that describes without words. Essentially, my body is feeling something that I do not know the words to express. And if you think about that, that also ties to the final one, relational. If we don't have the words to express emotionally, we're going to be very inhibited in our ability to connect relationally. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. The third is spiritual. I'm not, just as UCAP's mission is not to push any type of religion, but in recovery for decades, the research has shown that individuals who have a higher power and feel connected to it find hope and healing in a better way. And so spiritual is essentially, what do I turn to when I don't feel I have anything left? To what source do I reach when there are none available around me? Feeling connected to that higher power is an essential characteristic for those who seek and achieve long-term healing and sobriety. Finding a way to spiritually connect yourself, whether that's through religious worship, spiritual scripture reading, being in nature, connecting to something bigger than you. And this is critical because as many loved ones and friends or group members or therapists or those who are helping, the moment is going to come when one of those people are not available. And that brings the light to the importance of a spiritual connection, reaching to something that is higher than yourself. Fourth, sexual. Individuals that struggle with pornography addiction struggle with sexual maturity. Let me define what that means. Maturity, all of us know, is something that we do day by day, hopefully, year by year, decade by decade. We would all know that a child who is scared of the dark and they might cry, obviously that's quite immature. And as they mature, they realize that there's nothing in the dark that can hurt them, and that they are not going to be susceptible to crying as much because they've matured those feelings that their body experiences in the dark. They become accustomed to those feelings that their body has. So in this way, maturity is being able to discipline, harness, and not be flooded by the feelings of your body. That is the definition of maturity in this type of sense. Individuals who struggle with pornography addiction, they need help maturing in the sense of recognizing that just because their body experiences a sexual impulse or feeling, it's okay that they don't respond to it. And learning to harness that, learning to discipline that is one of the goals, and making small goals to be able to do that in their recovery process. But individuals that don't know how to do that, that's going to be obviously a source of slips if they don't have some specific goals to work for in that area. The final area is relational. Relational pain, in my experience, has been the number one area that triggers a slip or a relapse. Individuals that don't have the social skills that will help them to get connection. Often, because sexual addiction begins early in life, the social skills become undeveloped. And so individuals, even in adulthood, are using social skills that are very, very undeveloped. For instance, one of the social skills that becomes greatly affected is the social skill of honesty. Individuals have a hard time learning that, obviously linked with shame, and so they use dishonesty. And one of the social skills they have to work on relationally is honesty so that they can increase connection. Working with this area is one of the most important areas that individuals will work on in their recovery. I always tell my clients that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It is connection. It is connection with yourself, what your needs are. It is connection with your loved ones, what their needs are, and the social skills to be able to meet them. And it's connection with a higher power, living in a way that we strive for and work for every day. So again, 5 areas of pain: physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, and relational. Those are the 5 areas that become tantamount in working with in a healthy and successful recovery journey. So let's go through this addiction cycle together. So as you see, a person who mismanages pain, and the second step of this cycle is reaching. Because of this mismanagement of pain, the reach is to themselves or to what their brain knows. We're going to talk about what the brain knows here in just a minute. And there is a preoccupation The brain is designed to remember what takes stress, pain, or difficulty away the quickest. Anything that takes pain or stress away, literally there are chemicals in the brain. We're going to talk about delta phos B as a part of substrate of dopamine that highlights and makes the brain remember what took that stress, difficulty, or pain away. So when a person experiences pain in one or many of those 5 areas, their brain is going to be preoccupied with the very thing that took that pain away the last time. As all of us know, sexual feelings in the body are quite intense. In all the different feelings that the body experiences, sex is one of the top 3. And so it's a powerful reinforcement, meaning that it makes the body feel good even under circumstances that aren't good. So the brain remembers what took that pain, stress, or difficulty away last time, and the brain becomes preoccupied with it. And we move on to the next stage of the cycle, ritual. Now, every person that struggles with this addiction has behavioral rituals that pre-exist acting out. Those could be something like I'm checking my email and I click on a link that has a YouTube video, and all roads on YouTube lead to porn. And so that behavioral ritual for every individual that struggles with this addiction becomes something that needs to be slowed down, kind of segmented and understood so that we can break that ritual. The more important ritual that occurs in this cycle is the ritual of pushing the real people in your life away. Human beings are biologically, psychologically, and spiritually wired to connect as a way of dealing with pain. We are social animals, and when we experience pain, our body is encompassed with all kinds of signals that elicit social interaction to come and help me. Our body speaks so much faster and more powerfully than our words at times. Our body is designed to elicit others to help us. With addiction, the problem is the reaching is happening in the opposite direction. Every single individual that I am working with in my office that has a slip, we break this cycle down and we highlight the areas, the opportunities, the chances that they had to reach to somebody and talk about the pain that they had identified in activating this cycle. This part of the cycle, I'm wanting to reiterate this because it is so important. All pornography addiction is turning to fake people to make you feel better. Obviously, we know that it doesn't work. Who we are reaching to makes all the difference in the world. Obviously, then we go to the next section of a person that pushes all the real people away. The only people left are counterfeit, fake people. The acting out occurs, and within very short period of time after acting out, a person feels pain. I call it pain squared. I was terrible at math when I was in school, and I just remembered if you square something, it makes it worse. So I'm like, we're going to call it pain squared. And here's the problem. And many of you who know individuals or who struggle yourself, you know what I'm going to say in just a moment. After a person acts out, they obviously feel great pain, shame, hopelessness. And the problem is, they aren't thinking about the pain that started the whole cycle. They become hyper-focused on not acting out again. And the next slide, I'm going to show you The biggest part of my job as a marriage and family therapist that has worked with individuals and families that struggle with this for so many years, this next slide is going to show you the single most important thing that we can do. 10% of recovery is going to be focused on putting barriers and making the source of acting out more difficult to get to. The problem is most people that are working in recovery are spending most or all their time here. The famous conversation after one acts out is, well, what did you use? And let's see if we can come up with another way to get that out of your life. How many of you can relate to that? Yes. And I'm not trying to say that it's not helpful. It is. But if we're going to overcome pornography addiction and gain long-term recovery and sobriety, we have to start where this actually starts. And that is in how a person deals with pain. The most important link that I help people make as a therapist is when they experience high sexual energy in their body, or when they have a slip, they need to look at one boundary that will help them do this next step the most. I call it the 24-hour rule. Reaching out to someone after that slip within 24 hours, time is of the essence in this stage. Time is of the essence because our brain is subject to memory loss. The reason we need our memory is because a thorough analysis of how that individual was dealing with pain in the day or hours prior to that slip, and sometimes even multiple days. How did they deal with pain? Where did they miss their opportunities to reach out to a real person? When a person comes in, almost 100% of the time they experienced a slip, and they're just like, Jeff, this just came out of nowhere. I don't know how. I'm doing everything I can do. I just don't know what's going on. I always go into a thorough analysis of pain. What is happening? What's been going on in your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, and relationally? How are your relationships? What's going on at work? What's going on at school? Remember, sexual addiction is not about sex. It is about a mismanagement of pain. And so evaluating and discovering where that mismanagement occurred is critical. Making the link, helping them find the link between I had pain and which way did I reach? Where did I reach? That is 90% of healthy long-term sobriety and recovery, is being able to quickly and as time progresses to become better and better at it, to evaluate which areas of pain that individual struggles with. And every person is different. But helping them do that is critical in their recovery process. So I want to teach you guys a skill that you can use every single day to begin accelerating your ability to identify where you can make this link so that you can have that sobriety. So I call it the check-in. So physically, with someone that you trust, a spouse, a group member, a journal, some people do this in prayer. What they are going to do is they're going to take those 5 areas and they are going to communicate how they are doing, what's prominent about those 5 areas: physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, and relational. And they are going to, especially in the sexual area, that's where they're going to report a slip if that happens. And if a slip happens, we're obviously going to want to say, okay, are we doing everything we can with technological devices that we can slow this down? But we spend less time on that and more time on evaluating how that person is doing with pain. This is where therapy is so invaluable, or group. We only know what we know, and sometimes we need to know more, and that means we have to go to someone who knows more about this. And that's what a therapist can do, is help refine your process of like, how are you dealing with stress? How are you dealing with boredom? This is one of the things that I get the most. People think boredom obviously we know that it's a huge area for triggers, but they think it's an absence of activity. But that's not the way the brain works. When people are bored, it's because they don't have any distractions left to push away the pain or stress in their life. And so the body begins to feel pain and stress. And that's where acting out occurs. And working with a therapist to help you identify, or help your family member or loved one identify the areas of pain that they need help in working with. So doing that check-in day by day is a great way to begin understanding and bringing those areas of struggle in the light and working on them. When those struggles are in the light, the person, let's see here. This is the first time with the new clicker, sorry about that. But when those struggles are in the light, we can come up with ways and other sources to reach to. I often tell people, if your recovery process is simply on trying not to act out, that's like playing defense in a football game on the 1 yard line for the entire game. And as much as I love my Utes, they didn't do great this year. Their defense is typically really good, but the best defense is not going to be able to hold an offense again and again away. And so our goal is to go up the field. The defense wants to push that ball as far away from the end zone or acting out as possible. And to do that, we have to focus on identifying what pain you experience, and second, what source, or is there a source that you turn to for comfort? Okay, so that's the check-in. Now, let's see, where are we at on time? Okay, so now I want to talk to you about dopamine. I want to talk to you about the dopaminergic system in your brain. This is critical. When a person struggles with pornography addiction, their dopaminergic system in their brain is hijacked. And I want you to look at this 10-story building that we have here. And I want you to imagine that, is it not there? There we go. No, it's not. What's going on? There we go. Stay. Okay, so our brain is set to release dopamine at a level 2. And just like a building, any one of us in this room could get to level 2 quite easily. There are many things that we can do to get to level 2, okay? We can read a book, we can go on a walk, we can go play a sport. The brain is designed to make dopamine easily accessible. And so there's lots of things that we can do to achieve that, and that's the homeostasis, is level 2. When a person engages in sexual acting out, they are typically engaging in a sexual activity for some minutes and sometimes even hours that the body is not designed to experience sexual feeling for that long. And that it hijacks the dopaminergic system in the brain, and the set point for that release of dopamine that says this is good goes from level 2 to level 8. Now, this is critical to understand, because guess what happens to all the things in floors 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? How does the brain respond to those? Boring, uninteresting. This is why many individuals that struggle with pornography, they have a minimization in other things that they do that they enjoy. Because the brain, again, it remembers what makes the brain feel good the fastest. It's designed to go to that. And this homeostatic set point of level 2 becomes hijacked. And these individuals, this is also why they struggle with depression on a more frequent basis. Because imagine if you used to be able to get to all you had to do is go to level 2 to feel good. Now you have to go to level 8 every day. Imagine what that must feel like. Life becomes very binary and all or none thinking. That's what drives a lot of that thinking, is because the dopaminergic reward system in the brain has been hijacked. And this is also important to understand when you're seeking to reach out. And this is where sobriety helps the brain recover. We have found that after about 2 weeks, this dopaminergic system begins to heal, where just talking to someone begins to be enjoyable again. A person can look others in the eyes, and they're not objectifying as much after 2 weeks. Ultimately, this process unfolds of healing where this set point that is hijacked to go to level 8, it takes about 3 months for it to get back to the homeostatic level 2. This is where that 3 months of sobriety is so important. And that's where we want to start understanding. I'm going to skip here a little bit. I want to talk about social and emotional development. And social and emotional development are critical to understand because many individuals who struggle with pornography addiction began their addiction at a very interesting developmental period of time in their life. Usually it's in the younger teenage years. Studies show that the first exposure is around age 11 and repetitive around age 13. That changed in 2008 when the iPhone was released and mobile devices became, now the average age of exposure is 6. And so obviously this has developmental consequences, okay? So if a person is about 13 years of age and they have been seeking pornography repetitively, it may not be addiction at this point, but they may be doing it as a habit. Dopaminergically, we have to think about what's happening in their brain. Dopaminergically, they are uninterested in going out with their friends anymore. They are more dependent on screens. So they're not having the social experiences that allow them to develop. That becomes problematic, and I just want you to think about a healthy this is from a brain perspective, okay? So if we look at the healthy social development from a brain standpoint, and we go from like 0 to sex, think about what the brain has to learn in order for that to be healthy. All the social skills, all the emotional skills. How many of us remember seeing that boy or girl that we were attracted to and we couldn't put one word in front of the other? How many of us remember that? All of that stuff, all of those things the body has to learn is development. In a non-exposed brain to pornography, that pursuit of like learning how to interact with someone that you're attracted to is dopaminergically a cornucopia. The brain becomes hyper-focused on those social skills to learn how to get along with someone that you're attracted to, how to ask for the first date, how to talk, how to hug, what's that first kiss like? The problem with pornography is the brain gets lazy. How hard does the brain have to work for that dopaminergic release when a person acts out? The only social skill that is learned with pornography is that brain meets that person, they're attracted, and they act out. The brain becomes very lazy. Social skills, emotional coping skills become very unimportant to that brain. It's not a lot of work for the ward. Delta phos B, I told you in the beginning of this meeting that I would tell you a little bit more. This is where delta phos B is so important. I want you to think of dopamine, and then if you look at dopamine as a pie, one slice of that pie is delta phos B. And delta phos B is essentially a chemical that highlights what feels good the quickest, and it also registers it in your memory. And so, for instance, they have done studies where a person who was addicted to cocaine and they had many years sobriety, but they saw something that was used in using cocaine, and with no cocaine in their system, their entire brain just lit up. It was paralyzed, it was flooded. And it's because of delta phos B. Delta phos B is what the brain is literally scanning the environment for anything that can lead to that dopaminergic reward at level 8. And so the brain doesn't recognize real people, interactions with social skills with real people, as a dopaminergic reward anymore, because that set point has been up to level 8 and not level 2. This is where recovery, that relational pain, a few minutes ago I told you that we would talk a little bit more about that. Social skills like honesty. This is why doing a full disclosure, a formal disclosure. I've written workbooks on disclosure, and a good disclosure takes about 3 to 4 months to achieve, because they have to learn social skills. The social skill, and many of you have had the experience, if you struggle with this addiction, remember the day that you were hopeless, and whether you got caught or whether you decided to reach out, you reached out, you felt wonderful. You felt hope, you felt light. You used the social skill of honesty. Those social skills have to be developed. A little quote that I always share with my clients is one that I made up, that development yields to none except those who do the work. This is what is recovery. Recovery is learning the healthy social and emotional skills that can be utilized in times of pain so that that person isn't going back to the acting out behavior as a source of comfort or relief. There's a book by Dean Bird and Mark Chamberlain that says willpower is not enough. We have so much research that shows that willpower, just working on not acting out, is not enough. You have to be working on something else. And that is where we go back to that first step of making pornography. In the research, they call pornography a supernormal stimulus. And essentially what that is, it's stimulus, but it's not normal because it's exaggerated. Sobriety is the first step so that the brain can get the dopaminergic reward system back into sync with what the brain is designed to be stimulated by on a normal level. So that's where that willpower can help. A lot of people have to use that willpower to get to that 3 months. And then working with a group or a therapist, identifying those social skills that are needed to focus on, and it's different, every individual is different, so that they can begin using healthy resources instead of the unhealthy ones. So anybody have questions? Please ask if you do. Yes? Are you talking the brain with the... Okay, yes. Oh, looks like it's back. I am not liking this clicker, Clark. It's not like mine at home. Let's see here. Okay, this is the one you're talking about, isn't it? So, okay, this is really cool to understand. So, the dopaminergic reward system is at the center of the brain, right in between the left and right hemisphere. Left is knowing, right is feeling. When the dopaminergic reward system is activated, it sends dopamine into the left and right hemispheres, so both what we know, all the things that we acquire through knowing, and what we're feeling simultaneously feel good. I like to think of the dopaminergic reward system, if it's at homeostasis, it works together like the wings of an airplane, okay? You don't want, just like an airplane, if an airplane is like this, what's going to happen? It's going to spiral down, lose momentum, and fall out of the sky and crash. Dopamine in the brain is the same way. Our brain is designed to get a dopaminergic release at levels 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but only on a rare basis. You only win the jackpot every few times, right? It's not designed to be released at those high levels on a frequent basis. And that's where addiction is so counterfeit, because it's telling the brain you can achieve a level 8 every day. And so everything else in life begins to be unimportant. And in the brain, if that dopaminergic set point is at level 8 and not level 2, this is what the wings look like of that plane. So that dopaminergic reward system has been hijacked. So this is where that first step of sobriety, we've got to get this leveled out. Doing the check-in every single day, learning how do I manage physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, and relational pain? Do I have good techniques to manage those areas of stress? Do I have someone I know I can trust to help me learn when I can just admit my body's feeling something that I don't even have words for? Yes? Did you change your mind?
Maybe I missed it, but you mentioned that a full disclosure should take 3 to 4 months. What do you mean by full disclosure?
A full disclosure is this is especially important if that individual is married. A full disclosure and a formal disclosure has to be laced with accountability. It isn't just about truth-telling. Accountability is a social skill. In a marriage relationship, 2 people have an accountability to have no secret, private life. And anytime one individual engages in a double life, they are accountable to that other person. And without that full and formal disclosure event, that healing can't occur as a couple. A lot of people do a disclosure and they think it's about truth-telling, and it is. It's about honesty, but I might even add the accountability, which opens the door to a whole host of other social skills. That is even more important. Yes?
So with the delta phosphorus B.
Delta phos B, yes.
Delta phos B.
Phosphorus is not good in the brain. It's not. We don't want that.
That's right. Delta phos B. So you've got this thing that is, hey, this is what is good as quickly as possible and etch it in the brain. So my A, it sounds like an A track where it's there. So the question becomes for people we're working with, is it just filling up the rest of that A track so they have other references? Or over time, can enough of those references kind of crowd out that other triggering? I don't know medically if it's ever...
Yeah, think of it like this. What happens in the brain, and we have to finish after this. Jared is giving me the signal over there. Think of it like this. If your brain finds a resource that can achieve level 8 release in your brain, that will create a super highway of neuronal pathways in your brain. The way that we talk about brains is what fires together, wires together. And what fires intensely together wires very sophisticatedly together. So that level 8, that's very high sophistication, it's like a super freeway that gets this reward, that becomes very attractive when I have to go and learn to talk to someone face to face. That looks like a bumpy, not even a road, it's like a trail full of rocks and things like that. Man, my brain wants to go to that super highway so much more. But as that person practices, as they hold themselves accountable, as they get people to support them and work with them and teach them how to walk that path until that path becomes a well-paved trail, and even someday a road, and even someday a road with 2 lanes, etc. We have studies that show even after 30 years sobriety, that delta phosphate that I was talking about, that super highway can be, boom, turned on just at the sight of something that led, not even being stimulated, but led to being stimulated. And so that process of acquiring those social skills, learning those daily check-ins, doing those things every day helps a person get out of the addiction cycle. And I want to wish all of you who are working on this journey good wishes, and I want you to know that healing is possible. Those who do the work get the reward. Those who've been affected with a family member, healing is possible for you too. Especially as you see that person getting the social skills to hear your pain as a spouse. That's where healing happens especially as well. I want to thank each of you for your attention and encourage you to continue seeking UCAP out for resources. And let's give all the organizers another round of applause.